Today we have with us Margot, an artist who is currently a painting major at the Rhode Island School of Design. Her work includes stitching, painting, and drawing. Hi Margot, welcome to Listening to the Shades. We're so glad to have you on with us. Could you talk a little bit about your background?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm a painting major at the Rhode Island School of Design. I'm a sophomore currently. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. Um, yeah, and I'm a painting major, but my practice really incorporates a lot of different mediums. So I kind of work between painting and drawing and cross stitching, which is like my most recent kind of medium.
Yeah.
I just started cross stitching like 6 months ago, maybe, but it's like my favorite of all of the mediums I work in
Yeah.
so far.
How did you become interested in the arts
Like in general, just
in
all of
general, and
art.
then in general, and then also like cross stitching?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know like when my interest in like arts in general took off. I don't know. I think I've just always kind of been interested in like art. I don't know. I mean, I grew up like drawing a lot and
Mm-hmm.
like going to art museums. I don't know. I think I always just liked it.
Yeah.
And then I think about this a lot. Like, why did I decide to start cross stitching, or like,
Hmm.
where did that come from? And I don't know. I really like grids. Like, I really like the pattern of like cross stitch or just like weaving or anything stitching in general. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's like really visually like satisfying
Yeah.
the patterns. So I don't know. I guess I just decided that I was like, if I like the way it looks so much, I should just like do it.
Yeah.
I don't-
And um, what draws you to like the subject? So I've seen with your cross stitching, a lot of your work is just based on self portraiture, but even
Mhm.
then, it's oftentimes like photographs and like selfies and those kinds of images. So is there a specific reason why?
Yeah. I think I was having a conversation with a friend a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about like self portraiture and like documenting yourself
Hmm.
and stuff like that. And I think the reason I like only really choose to like depict myself as opposed to anyone else
Hmm.
is because I feel like I only have the authority to depict myself. Like, I feel like I wouldn't have the authority, honestly, to. I don't know. I think I just have the most authority to cross stitch myself. And I feel like there's like a relationship to photography
Yeah.
with my cross stitches, or like, yeah. I think like visually cross stitches, like they almost look like pixels, like,
Yeah.
like little the squares. So I think I just like drew this visual similarity between like the pixels of like a digital image and like stitches in a cross stitch.
Yeah.
So I feel like the things I'm stitching are super like in relation to like the digital age and like selfies
Hmm.
and like things on your phone. But I feel like there's like an interesting contrast with it
Yeah.
because like the histories are so different. Like textile history goes back so far, and it's
Yeah.
so like ancient and so related to women's work. Um, and then like I don't know, but I'm doing these like super modern like digital images that have only been able to exist in the past like 10, 20 years.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. So, do you see like do you see the do you see like cross stitching images and just like photographs as something that imbues the same type of like labor and craft that comes with textile and the history of textile into like just us taking pictures or like those kinds of moments or pictures of you?
Yeah. I think it's like an interesting like relationship to time because it takes so long to
Hmm.
like cross stitch something, like it's so laborious. Um so I think like I don't know, and photography is so accessible to people nowadays. Like everyone takes
Yeah.
pictures, like multiple pictures a day, and it's so easy to take a picture. So I think that is also a really interesting contrast to me, like the how timely it is to like cross stitch
Hmm.
something versus how quick like I took the reference photo,
Yeah.
or like how quick I sourced the reference photo. Um yeah.
That makes sense. Also, I think as far as I've seen, a lot of your cross stitch, you also in the relationship to time thing, you had one where you had scribbles and doodles on top of your face, and then one where
Mhm.
you painted a picture of yourself from years ago, and then uh, one with like a Snapchat filter on it, which is like new, I think. Um,
Yeah.
by the way, your work is like very cool. I really liked it. So are you trying to play with time in that way also? So like memories and
Um yeah, I think I really like the idea of like revisiting old images,
hmm,
or or like reusing an old image. Like I
yeah,
don't know. I did one of like this selfie I took like 3 or 4 years ago, and I was just thinking about like the lifespan of this picture and like how I took it like 4 years ago, and it just like sat in my camera roll, and now like 4 years later I'm like spending so much time like
yeah,
indulging in the image and like I don't know, really understanding like each pixel of the image. Um yeah, I don't know. I like to think about like the lifespan of things and like how far can I take an image? Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like how many years can it stretch? Like, I don't know.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Um, could you also talk a little bit about your other work? So I've seen like your drawings are really colorful, and there's elements of them that are both abstract and like some of them are more realistic. So like, what do you intend with that?
Yeah, I feel like with like my drawings and my paintings, I am looking for like I don't know, like a more gestural mark. Like
Hmm.
because the cross stitches are so precise
Yeah.
and so timely that I feel like I almost need to like release energy by drawing. So I do these like super quick, like very gestural and colorful like drawings, and I do like batches of them, and I it in my head it's like this release of energy, and it works like simultaneously with the cross stitches. um like when the cross stitches are becoming like dull, I'd like switch
Yeah.
to like I don't know, printmaking or drawing to like clear myself, and
Yeah.
like I don't know, like they work together even though they visually I feel like look so kind of different, like my
Mm-hmm.
drawings and paintings versus my like textiles.
Yeah.
Um, but they work really well together for me.
Hmm. And what kind of elements like in your drawings do you turn to? So I saw one which had like a stuffed toilet, I think, um, and then there was a couple where it seemed like you were drawing from like subjects that were really zoomed in or really up close, and they seemed sort of abstract, but also like you could almost make out what was in the image or like what is in the drawing. So was that
Hmm.
intentional?
um I don't know, I feel like when I go into a drawing, I don't have like a subject in mind or anything like
Hmm.
that. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't, and I'm just kind of like working out what's in my head. Like
Yeah.
I don't even. It's like it's like a spillage. It's just like
Yeah.
whatever. I need to just like get everything out onto this paper. So I don't know. I feel like in the moment I'm not like thinking about it a whole lot
Yeah.
as to like what is it that I'm drawing. Like
Mm.
it's just kind of like this release, and I like move the paper all around. I like will cover
Yeah.
stuff up and restart. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. You're also like an art student, so how has that experience been for you? So how has that shaped your work, and how have you seen it change over the last 2 years?
Um. Yeah. When I initially came to this school, I was like sure I was going to like do painting and paint my way through this school. Um, and then the beginning of fall semester this year was really the beginning of like getting into my major,
Yeah.
like painting. And immediately, like, there was like a shift into textiles. It was at first, it was this like this struggle because I would go into the studio and it was a painting studio and I had all of this
Yeah.
paint set up. I was supposed to paint, but I didn't want to paint. Like I in my dorm I had these like cross stitch projects going on. And I was like it was like this battle because it was
Yeah.
like the cross stitch is living in my dorm and it's like this like pastime almost. Like it's not living in the studio. But so I was like, okay, I need a way to like merge these
Yeah.
or like because I was like, why is the textile not living in the studio? Like, why can't I bring this into the studio? So I was like, I'm just going to bring it into the studio. So I brought it into the studio, and then I was painting and like sewing in my
Mm-hmm.
studio. And for like my painting final, I ended up doing like a 4 foot cross stitch thing. Like it fully was not a painting, but I don't know. The school I go to is very like at least in the painting major, you can kind of do whatever you want and like it's fine. Like you'll still get the painting degree and it people will still critique it and there's really no like issue with medium there.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, it still kind of is like something I need to navigate like being a painting major but like not fully making paintings
Mm-hmm.
like 'cause each semester we get like new professors and new classes so it's like I need to figure out how do I want to incorporate this? Like, how does everything exist together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you also feel like because you're a painting major, it's more difficult for you to actually like learn more about textiles and cross stitching and those kinds of things?
Yeah. We do have like textile majors like at the school.
Yeah.
But I had declared like a painting major before I like got into textiles. But yeah, I think about like that a lot. Like, should I be in the textiles major? Like, because they have a lot of like resources and equipment that I don't have access to
Yeah.
being a painting major. Um, but I think at the end of the day, I like the flexibility that comes with being a painting major at the school because I can kind of work between like painting and drawing and printmaking and
Yeah.
sewing. Yeah.
So, has your like process or the way that you think about material evolved because of that, because of the flexibility?
Um, I mean, yeah, I think my like understanding of just material in general
Mm-hmm.
has evolved just from like going to art school and I think a lot more about like where the materials I'm using are sourced, like who is what's at expense for me to be using this. Yeah, and I've been thinking about that a lot with my textiles because like I just use these like threads, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like get it from like craft stores. Um, but like I don't know fully like what goes into dyeing these colors. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it would be really interesting for me to like fully like dye my own threads and
Hmm.
then use those. And I've been reading a lot about like eco dyeing and like
Yeah.
natural ways of dyeing. So that might be something that I try out in the future.
Yeah, and that way you could color match much better.
Yeah,
It'll be
exactly,
much easier.
exactly.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Have you faced any challenges with that process?
Um, yes, but I don't know. The challenges are, I feel like my challenges are kind of in like how cohesive my practice is. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't know how to explain. Like, in my head, I feel like all the mediums I'm doing are so separate, and I think it's really challenging for me to like find what is connecting everything,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to like painting versus cross stitching. I don't know. I feel like it's like really difficult for me to like find like the bridging factor for like
Yeah.
everything that I'm doing. And then it's also like a challenge for me to like just balance everything.
Hmm.
Um because the textile work is so like it takes so long, and then I am a painting major, so I do like to paint, so then it's like what am I painting? Am I painting? I don't know. I don't like to limit myself. I don't want to just stick to one medium. So I just am constantly like thinking about
Yeah.
what I'm doing right now versus what do I want to be doing versus like I don't know what I could be doing. Yeah.
I think that's always a struggle, though. Yeah.
No, yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and I very much relate to the there is I just want to paint. When you're doing anything else, you just feel like you should be painting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
What are you working on right now?
Um I just finished this cross stitch of me with like a Snapchat
I
dog.
think I saw
So
that. It was
cute.
very, very cute.
um and right now I'm working on like two things. I'm doing like cross stitches of drawings I've
Yeah.
done. So almost like working I don't know. I like I said I do these drawings while I cross stitch. Like it works together.
Hmm.
Um taking the drawings that I did during the previous cross stitch and then I'm making a pattern with those and then making a cross stitch of like those drawings.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like that goes back to like the lifespan of an image thing that I'm super interested in because it's like I don't know the one I'm doing right now. I like sewed a sock monkey a couple months ago, and then I drew this like picture of the sock monkey, and now I'm gonna cross stitch the picture I drew of the sock monkey. So it's just like I took this thing, and it's like the like mediums it goes through, or like
Yeah.
the layers it goes through. And then I'm also working on in my I just moved into my new painting studio and I really want to like paint pictures of the back of the cross stitches. So like not paint
Yeah.
on the cross stitches, but like the backs are these super like I don't know. It's just like a bunch of like thread, like
Yeah.
it's a mess, you know. And it's like wiry almost. It's like I don't it just like looked interesting, so I was like, okay, maybe I should try and paint that.
It does.
Um yeah. So I'm working on like figuring out how I might paint that. Um but yeah, that's what I'm working on.
That's really interesting, especially you like repurposing an image over and over again to see how it changes.
Hmm.
Um, a couple of like final questions. First is like, what artists inspire you, or like, what do you think inspires you, and whose work do you look towards?
That's a hard one. I really like Sheila Hicks' work. Um, I don't know. I really like. I've been getting a lot of books from the library at my school of like
Yeah,
Swedish textile work, which is not like a specific person, but it's just kind of like a genre
right.
almost. Um, I don't know. And then obviously like my classmates or just like the people in my studio are
Mm-hmm.
like massive inspiration, I think. Just like talking to them and like hearing how other people like work is like
Yeah.
a big inspiration. Yeah.
And what have you been like paying attention to in not just maybe your classmates' work, but also in like the contemporary art space in general? So yeah.
Um, I don't know. um, I've been following a lot of what Qualisha Wood is doing. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you know her. She also went to RISD, but she went for printmaking. But she does like these like photo real like weavings. And it's like super in relation to like the digital age.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like these like photo she does like photo collages and then turns them into these weavings. So I've been following a lot of what she's doing.
Yeah.
um yeah, I don't know. That's a hard question.
Um. No, but that makes sense. Mm. Thank you so much. I'm going to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on.